Welcome back. Good evening. Good evening to you too, Howard. Dr. Jaws here. Tonight we are going to run into an exciting and very populous, or not populous, but popular species, the lemon shark, Negaprion brevirostris. So this is going to be an especially exciting stream where we have footage, a lot of science, and a lot of great factoids about this pretty enigmatic shark. Hope you had a great weekend, Howard. My wife and I actually did something really cool that I think you'd be interested in. We went to Calvert Cliffs and Calvert Marine Museum, and we explored the fossil exhibit, which is pretty spectacular. The Calvert Cliffs in Maryland is famous for having megalodon teeth, and my wife pointed out this really cool study where they're actually trying to reshape the body plan of megalodon, and it's actually based on a lemon shark body plan. So scientists, historically have based megalodon on white shark body plan, but further research has been suggesting that it actually might be similar more so to a lemon shark. Equal-sized dorsal fins, bit of a stockier body, maybe a flatter, broader snout. So it's pretty interesting that we were kind of like learning more about that over the weekend. So, but yeah, kind of fun fact. And also, speaking of Calvert Cliffs, Maryland just recently. Oh, cool! I want to get also want to get out there one day. It was really cool. Maryland also recently, the U.S. state of Maryland recently named their first state, the first state shark. No, I don't think there's any state in the United States that has a state shark, but Maryland is one of the first. Hey Tim, welcome back. Hope you're doing well. This is a great stream to join in. We're talking about lemon sharks tonight. But I was just about to share that my wife and I were visiting Maryland last weekend, and they just announced that Megalodon, prehistoric shark Megalodon, is going to be their state shark, which is a good pick because there's a lot of fossils in Maryland and in Calvert Cliffs specifically. And once again, my only time for Megalodon for this episode is that some scientists are speculating that Megalodon's body plan is actually similar to a lemon shark, as opposed to a great white. So, and really, really cool. Oh, cool, Howard. I agree the most recent reassessment of Megalodon is very exciting. Super cool. I'm especially excited where lemon sharks just have such an interesting look overall. So I think that'd be actually really cool if the body plan for the Meg is actually more closely aligned with a lemon shark. Just because they have such a characteristic look that is a little bit... I mean, it's unmistakable. That's a great shot, by the way. They have very long, needly teeth, kind of like a sand tiger shark, but they have like a stocky body, kind of like a bull shark. They have a slightly pointed snout, kind of not as pointed as a sand tiger, but not as flat or rounded as a sandbar. They have these two huge, equally sized dorsal fins, and pretty large pectoral fins as well. And overall, they actually get to be a pretty impressive size. So lemon sharks, I believe, are in the 10 to 12 foot range. I have to double check what the max size is, and we'll learn more about that tonight. But you can see with these divers right here, they're having a fun time with these individuals that are actually pretty sizable. So lemon sharks in general are pretty fun, where I think they're most famous for a couple social shark studies where they exhibit unique social behaviors, which is going to be interesting to kind of dive in more into. We've learned that many sharks have social behaviors ranging from great white sharks to bonnethead sharks, gray reef sharks. They can exhibit a wide variety of social displays, whether that's tailing sharks, so following a shark nose to tail in larger schools. And usually in that behavior, the smaller sharks defer to larger sharks, and male sharks defer to female sharks. So usually large females are the dominant group, or the dominant individual in the school, which is pretty interesting. And then I'm just excited as far as lemon sharks in particular, what their social behaviors are like, because other shark species, they'll display territoriality, and I I'm just really curious to see what lemon sharks will do. Another thing that that we'll learn about lemon sharks. Another thing that lemon sharks are very, very famous for is their occupation of mangrove habitats. So in Florida and the Bahamas and other parts of the Caribbean, mangroves are a wonderful nursery for this species of shark. It's one of the few sharks that really uses the mangroves as a nursery area. So lemon shark pups are born in shallow coastal waters, and they migrate into the mangrove nursery area where their branches provide a lot of protection for the pups to kind of like dart in and out of. And also, it's a really great hunting ground because juvenile fishes also use the mangroves where they can grow up. So I'm really excited to learn more about the species, and I think it's going to be a fun night. A lot of coverage. And then I think before we really get started, the reason I picked lemon shark for tonight is I was going through kind of like the Rolodex of sharks that we've already covered, which is a lot. And I was comparing it to some shark books that I have, and I wanted to check to see if I was missing any big species. And apparently we've never done lemon shark before. We've done the sickle-fin lemon shark, but we've never done the classic lemon shark. So I'm really, really excited. This is such a famous species. And just really, really cool shark that is pretty commonly known, at least in the United States, and especially the southern parts of the United States. So I'm excited to dive in. So I think, without further ado, we'll learn about the lemon shark at Florida Museum of Natural History, and we'll kind of interspace some of the research or the knowledge with video, different clips of the species in different habitats. And I think with that, we'll just dive in. So, lemon shark, Negaprion brevirostris. Lemon shark is easily recognized for its two equally sized dorsal fins and its yellow-brown to olive color, an ideal camouflage against the sandy inshore areas they prefer to forage in. So lemon sharks are really cool in that they're one of the few shark species that do have a yellowish color. Yellow is kind of like a weird, not very common color in sharks. Most sharks are gray or brown, but I would say some of the cool outliers that you see in the shark world are blues, like the blue shark, any kind of like indigo shade or bronzy yellow shade. So it's kind of cool to see that in this species. This is something that really distinguishes it from a lot of other shark species. Lemon sharks average between 8 to 10 feet long as adults, but are generally not considered a threat to humans. They are social animals that can be seen in aggregations and prefer a defined home range. So it sounds like lemon sharks have site fidelity. That's actually especially cool since their cousins in the Pacific, the sickle-fin lemon shark, have very, very strong site fidelity. They use specific coral reefs for different times of the year. Sometimes they'll stay in the same reef area throughout most of their lives, and then sometimes they'll have very broad reef areas. I think one of our more interesting studies on the stream, and actually for the sickle-fin lemon shark stream specifically, was the discussion of lemon sharks migrating from one reef to another reef and breeding and mating. Yeah, from one reef into another reef, and using genetics to kind of detect how wide their range is as far as like breeding season goes, which is pretty interesting. The lemon shark gets its English name because of its pale yellow-brown coloring. It is also known by these other names, so I'm just going to read a few of these. Zitronenhai in German, which is pretty interesting. Squalo limone in Italian, which makes sense. The sec, or the kek in Wolof, which is kind of interesting. And then Setronhaj in Swedish, so kind of an interesting collection of names. I wonder if there's any other English name for the species. I'm going to check sharkreferences.com just to see. Wow, so not a lot of English name. Actually, only two. There's the lemon shark, which is perfect for the species, and then requiem shark, which is not a good name. Requiem shark is a term for any sharks in this family, so it's kind of too broad. So lemon shark is perfect. It looks like that's the only name that really works, and yeah, that's a good fit. Importance to humans. Lemon shark is targeted by commercial and recreational fisheries along the U.S. Atlantic Ocean, Caribbean, and Eastern Pacific Ocean. Let's see. Danger to humans. Lemon sharks represent little threat to humans. According to the International Shark Attack File, there have only been 10 unprovoked attacks by lemon sharks, all occurring in Florida and the Caribbean. There have been no fatal attacks attributed to the species. The lemon shark inhabits coastal waters in close proximity to swimmers, surfers, and divers. While the number of attacks attributed to the species is low, caution is still warranted as they are large predatory species. So what's kind of cool is this is a great shark to dive with, just because it's pretty intimidating looking. I mean, it's huge. And it's got these really cool, pretty what's the word? Very vibrant, very what's the word? Disarming. I'm trying to find the right word for the eyes, but like this like really intense look, these really intense eyes, this really big mouth with like the needly teeth, just like a sand tiger shark. Large size, but it's harmless. It's more or less harmless to humans, really. So, a really great species for shark dives or shark encounters. And I think Bimini is a place you can run into lemon sharks. In fact, love to check out swim diver lemon shark. Dive notes on the species. Sicklefin lemon shark. So I'm just checking out, this is Andy Merck's old website, and it's going to redirect me to the new one in a little bit. Here we go. Okay. So, and I'll post this in the chat. This is Andy Merck's, the underwater photographer's website. Oh, Howard, unnerving. I think unnerving. Yes, thank you. I think that's the word I was looking for. I have a little bit of Monday brain right now, so I think that's a good fit for. It's a like stirring, alluring, like unsettling kind of look. Sand tigers have that kind of like penetrating look too. There's something about just their eyes where like the pupils are very small. They're kind of like cat-like. Or slit-like, and the eyeballs are actually really small too, which is kind of a hint as the lemon shark lives in shallow water habitats. Like having small eyes like that usually is an indicator that this is a shark that occupies shallow water, because sharks with larger eyes, the implication is that they live in deep water to maximize light, but for sharks that live in shallow water where they are experiencing a lot of light intensity, or in murky water where they really don't need to rely on their eyes as much, the eyes are a bit smaller. So, but I posted this website in the chat just for future reference. This is a wonderful dive website where it's underwater photographer Andy Merck, who has dive notes on a variety of sharks, and that can be found from around the world. So, I'm sure he's got a lot of good stuff on a lemon shark. Beautiful photo right here. It's a really great showcase of the species. You can see, again, a pretty large head, and actually fairly large gill slits too. Large pectoral fins, large first and second dorsal fin. This is actually fascinating, where this shark, in a lot of ways, looks a lot like a sand tiger. It's in a completely different order, but it's kind of cool that sand tiger sharks are uniquely shallow water sharks, and I think lemon sharks are more or less uniquely shallow water too. And so, even though they're in different orders, they've evolved superficially similar features. Like, they're both pretty stocky. They both have these beautiful cruising fins that are large, and they kind of help the shark maintain like a fair speed. They don't do like high burst or high speed burst attacks like mako sharks or white sharks, but they're also not sluggish animals either. They're kind of like nearshore cruisers, which is really cool. They also both have a similar head shape and similar jaw shape and tooth shape, so long needly teeth. Sand tiger sharks are much more exaggerated, but the fin sizes and the proportion of the fins and how they relate to each other, it's actually eerily similar to a sand tiger shark, which is so interesting. Because sand tigers and lemon sharks, they both have large pectorals, large dorsals, large pelvic fins, large anal fin, and then a pretty large caudal fin too. And they're both, again, stocky animals. So, but beautiful shot of a lemon shark occupying a seagrass habitat with a little remora on its chin. So, again, these are shallow water hunters. Identification: a large body shark with a short, rounded snout, Second dorsal fin almost as large as the first dorsal. So this is actually the key feature to help identify the species versus other sharks, especially true carcharodontic sharks like sandbar sharks and bull sharks. Those sharks will have a tiny second dorsal fin, but lemon sharks have a big one. So this is actually a pretty useful indicator in terms of what the species is. Dorsal coloration yellowish brown or olive brown. Ventral coloration usually cream or yellow. The juveniles tend to have bluer hues and wider ventrums. Interesting. Some adults are quite dark. Fins may have dusky tips and posterior margins. Maximum length is nearly 3.7 meters, but rarely exceeds 2.5 meters. So pretty large shark overall. Conservation status is vulnerable, and I think that's still relevant on IUCN. Yep, so it's a vulnerable species. Lemon sharks are caught in artisanal gillnet and longline fisheries, which are intense and largely unmanaged throughout much of their range. Once common off Western Africa, lemon sharks have been virtually extirpated from much of their former range in the Eastern Atlantic. They've also been heavily depleted in the Gulf of Mexico and most of the coastline of South America. The only region where they appear to be stable is in the Bahamas and some parts of the Caribbean where they are protected. Habitat: tropical and warm temperate. Lemon sharks inhabit shallow coral reefs, mangroves, sandy and muddy bays, and river mouths, from the intertidal zone to at least 92 meters. So this is an exclusively shallow water shark. This is a shark that only lives in the sunlit zone. So again, very cool to compare to a sand tiger shark, because sand tiger sharks, Calcareus taurus, they are also uniquely shallow water animals. They have evolved unique abilities like gulping air to maintain neutral buoyancy, sight fidelity to coral reefs or shipwrecks. So it's again very cool to see the comparisons between sand tiger sharks and lemon sharks, and the fact that they occupy similar habitats. Distribution: lemon shark is most abundant in the Western Atlantic. It is seasonally present from New Jersey to Brazil. So on that note, in my home state of Virginia, we do have lemon sharks on the eastern shore. On the ocean side of the eastern shore, they actually, I think they pup on the eastern shore. There's like 1 or 2 records of the shark in the Chesapeake Bay proper, but for the most part, they are moderately abundant or moderately present on the eastern shore. And I think there have been a few documented cases of some of the lagoons on the eastern shore being pupping grounds for lemon sharks, but I'm not 100% sure about that. We have to read up on that. But they definitely occupy the lagoon, so they're here every summer, which is pretty cool. So it's a fun species on a personal level. It was once relatively abundant in the eastern Pacific too, but overfishing has caused great declines. It occasionally occurs from the Sea of Cortez to Ecuador. There are also records from West Africa, but there's uncertainty whether this is the same species. More research needs to be conducted, but sightings are rare. Diet: lemon sharks mostly eat bony fishes, for example, reef fishes, or that is reef fishes, eels, etc. Larger sharks also eat sharks and rays, including small lemon sharks. So it looks like lemon sharks, unfortunately, are cannibalistic. Not unusual for the family. Bull sharks, I believe, are also cannibalistic. So, and they're the same family, Carcharodontidae. Juveniles often consume crustaceans, that is, shrimps and amphipods. Behavior: adult lemon sharks are generally solitary, but occasionally form large aggregations, sometimes resting together on the substrate. So that's actually a fun fact about the species. This is a buccal pumper. So this is a shark that actually can lay on the seabed and actively pump water over its gills. And it's actually especially useful when these sharks give birth, where they will actually position themselves on the seabed, pump water over their gills, and give live birth to their pups, and the pups will swim away to occupy nearby mangrove habitats. Reaction to divers: usually quite tolerant of divers unless approached very closely, can become quite aggressive in baited situations. Diving logistics: in South Florida and the Bahamas, lemon sharks are occasionally encountered on unbaited reef dives, but sightings are unreliable. Fortunately, there are a few areas where baited dives attract numerous lemons. Tiger Beach, which is a very famous dive site in the Bahamas, remains the best site in the Western Atlantic to encounter lemon sharks. There are a variety of spots within the general area that attract lemons, but the highest ratio that I've seen is the old anchor chain in the middle of the shallow sand flat known as Tiger Wreck. This tends to be the first spot that big fish expeditions dive at because it's a good checkout dive site, only around 7 meters deep. Although you can also see all the other species that Tiger Beach is famous for, at Tiger Wreck, this particular spot mostly attracts lemon sharks. At Fishtails, less than a kilometer away, there are also plenty of lemon sharks, but they are mixed in with the tigers, reef sharks, nurse sharks, bulls, and hammerheads, so they tend to get overlooked. So, to reconfirm, like a classic Bahamas shark dive will have lemon sharks, tiger sharks, which are a legitimately dangerous species, Caribbean reef sharks, nurse sharks, bull sharks, which are another legitimately dangerous species, and typically great hammerheads, so the largest of the hammerheads. So this is like an amazing place to do a shark dive. However, Fishtails is a better spot to photograph them with a nice coral backdrop. Another excellent spot for diving for close encounters with lemon sharks is during the beta dives off Jupiter Inlet in Florida. The feeds are in significantly deeper water than Tiger Beach, so this dive is best for advanced divers. In Bimini, we sometimes leave the hammerhead spot and snorkel in the mangroves. If you bring a little chum, this could be a good spot to look for neonate lemon sharks swimming around the mangrove roots. So that's a really cool little dive note in terms of finding baby lemon sharks. So, and obviously, a lot of these, such a good photo, a lot of these experiments have paid off because Andy has gotten some incredible photographs of these animals. So this is, I love this shot actually, of a lemon shark breaking the surface with this beautiful cloud backdrop. So you can actually frame that. This is an incredible photograph. So, Tim, great question. Is the coloring pragmatic, like white shark's counter shading? So, my guess is possibly with the fact that this shark is uniquely found in mangroves and estuary areas where, and this might be a little bit of a leap, but my guess is that with mangrove habitats, with the leaves that are falling in the water, you could get some tannin staining from the leaves, and that might help this shark in terms of camouflage, where the water might be a little bit murkier or maybe stained in a little bit more of a kind of an olive hue. And with that, the lemony color, like the yellow bronze color, might be really helpful for at least juvenile lemon sharks to blend in with those surroundings. That's kind of my guess as far as like why they have that unique coloration. And I think that lines up with the fact that they do live in a unique habitat when they're juveniles, where not a lot of shark, at least in this part of the world, not a lot of shark species use mangroves as a nursery. So, but that's just a guess. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, because there are other sharks, like bonnetheads will use mangroves, and then I believe black tips use mangroves, and maybe bull sharks use mangroves too. So, but lemon sharks are just characteristically the occupant of mangroves. So that's a huge nursery area for them. So that's my guess as far as why they may have that color. So these are such impressive animals. Again, these are pretty large sharks with that kind of characteristic sharky look. Frightening set of teeth, but because they're narrow, they're also clearly piscivorous. So these are primarily fish eaters. So really cool above and below camera shot, or above and below water shot of sharks and people being in very close proximity. So great shots of lemons here. That's a really cool shot. And as far as the vacation goes, Bimini would be a great place for shark diving. Just imagine just being in this crystal clear water and seeing these incredible animals so closely. Great nighttime view of a lemon shark with the starlit sky. It's so cool. And then like a nice shot of lemon shark at dusk. I'm curious if we can get any shots of juvenile lemon sharks. So there's an adult over seagrass beds. Also, I love this seascape, by the way. I think it's like so eerie, where you have this open plain of underwater grass. The grass is a great place for fish to hide. It's also a very popular place for seahorses, pipefish, sticklebacks, Those three sets of fish, they particularly love seagrass, as well as crabs, especially blue crabs. Love seagrass meadows. I think whelks like seagrass too, but seagrass is like such a fantastic place for a wide variety of wildlife to be hiding, and a scary place to hide from a shark. So, just going to. Oh, actually, that's a great shot of the jaws right there. So, beautiful set of teeth. So, very long, narrow teeth again, multiple rows. So, very, very good fish eating teeth. And you can tell immediately from the jaws that this is a safe shark to be around. That sounds counterintuitive, where it's like, the jaws are open, it looks frightening, but the shape of the tooth indicates that this is a shark that eats fish or squid, primarily. If it was broad teeth that are serrated, that's when you know that's kind of a dangerous shark, because that is teeth designed for a marine mammal. So beautiful shot of a lemon shark just biting above the water. Really, really nice view of the teeth here. Great view of how all sharks, including lemon sharks, can project their jaws forward. So you can see the jaws actually lunging out from the head, which is so cool. And sharks can do that because their jaws are not fused to their cranium. So it's just such an amazing thing. This is an excellent shot of the nictitating membrane. So this is the other main distinguishing feature between this shark and sand tiger sharks. I know I'm comparing them to sand tiger sharks a lot, but sand tigers will not have this feature. Only Conroe-Nicholls have the nictitating membrane, so it's that protective eyelid that or eye flap that covers the eyeball when the shark is feeding. So it's a really great adaptation that helps protect the eyeball. All other sharks will have their eyes roll into the back of their head, kind of like that infamous behavior that's mentioned in movies like Jaws. They do that in order to protect their eyeballs, but Conroe-Nicholls, the order Conroe-Nicholls, evolved this feature to protect the eyes from any damage when they're feeding. So it looks really cool. It kind of looks like that scene for The Dark Knight where Batman has his sonar suit going on, so it's just kind of fun. Nice shot of the lemon shark with some remora, and then I think these are crevalle jack or jack crevalle in the back. Beautiful shot from underneath with a Caribbean reef shark in the background. Let me get out of this view so I want to see if we could get baby lemon sharks, just to kind of show what they look like. Because these are all adults. These are amazing images, but yeah, it looks like they don't have juveniles. So we'll kind of keep going in order to see. I think I have a clip of juveniles actually. No, there we go. Yep. So see what the juveniles look like and how they move. So here's some baby lemon sharks swimming nearly directly to the camera. You can see immediately that there's a little school of them, of at least 3 individuals, and they have actually black tips, which is really cool. Black tips on their caudal fin, anal fin, and second dorsal fin. A lot of juvenile sharks actually have the black tips, and I don't know why they have that feature. But black tip sharks and spinner sharks famously have that, but bull sharks do too. When they're juveniles, they'll have black tips on their fins. It's cool to see that in their juvenile stage, lemon sharks are pretty elongate. And they're very cute. They look very rounded and small and soft. This is a clip of the mangrove habitat that lemon sharks occupy. So mangroves are these really unique trees that have these very long roots that plunge into the water, and it's a unique adaptation for those trees in particular. But a lot of fishes. Oh, that's a quick shot of a lemon shark giving birth to a pup. That is a newly born lemon shark. And actually, this is actually great. There's a female lemon shark swimming up a mangrove habitat and then giving birth to these little lemon sharks. But the mangroves are a really unique place for little baby lemon sharks to live, where they're very protected. Not a lot of predators because there's such shallow water habitats, and a lot of great places to hide and a lot of great places to hunt for food. So really cool aerial shot, seeing how close lemon sharks get to the shore. And a beautiful shot of a mangrove habitat. So I've been lucky enough to snorkel in one mangrove in particular in Florida. Didn't see any lemon sharks, but I did get to see some of the fishes in this clip, where behind the roots, there's a lot of cool animals that are just like hiding in these nooks and crannies. It's such a one of a kind habitat, and mangrove forests provide a lot of structure and shelter for a huge variety of fishes, and obviously it's a great place for baby sharks to grow up. And with that in mind, these are habitats that absolutely need to be protected. Unfortunately, mangroves around the world are under a lot of threat, where they sometimes are plowed down to make room for shrimp farms or like coastal development, like vacation homes and stuff. So it's really sad because those human-made structures are really tearing apart this incredible ecosystem that's one of a kind and very like, I want to say they're fragile, but at the same time these are actually pretty storm resilient ecosystems too. So that was a really cool shot. I'm enjoying this like view of like baby lemon sharks just swimming in this habitat. But mangroves not only help the sharks, but they actually help humans, where the unique structure of a mangrove habitat with all the trees and the roots, it helps break up wind and helps create like a barrier between a hurricane and a nearshore human settlement habitat. So they kind of acts like as a natural barrier that helps break up the storm just with the physical features. Whoops, no ads. The physical features of a mangrove habitat actually help interrupt wind flow, break it apart, and lessen the damage of coastal storms. So it's a win-win. Protecting mangrove habitat is a win for the sharks, but also a win for humans too. So, hey Roy, welcome back. It's good to see you. This is a great episode to hop on for tonight. We're talking about lemon sharks, which is so funny. It's protect the babies, yeah. It's so funny. Like, I thought I could have sworn we had covered this species because it's such a famous species, but 160 episodes in and we haven't touched it yet. So I think we haven't touched scalped hammerheads either, which is kind of wild. So that might have to be remedied soon. But what's funny is that on this website, Shark Research Institute, which we've been to multiple times, their main cover photo is of a lemon shark. So there's a lemon shark right here in the front. So it's kind of fun to see the official illustration and shark research profile of it. A big, stocky, short-nosed yellowish shark. Dorsal fin's about the same size as far as the key features again to look for. Males mature at about 7.3 feet or 2.2 meters and reach at least 9 feet or nearly 3 meters. Females mature at about 7.8 feet and reach at least 9 feet. Pretty interesting that mature females are larger than males. That's typical for sharks. But the maximum size for both is relatively the same. Inshore species that may enter fresh water, so pretty interesting. It's one of the few sharks that may be able to tolerate low salinity. Prey is bony fishes, rays, small sharks, crustaceans, mollusks, and seabirds. Behavior: the shark is nocturnal, is active at night close inshore, around docks, saltwater creeks, estuaries, bays, and inlets. Disposition of species has been involved in unprovoked incidents in South Carolina, Florida, and Texas. It may become very aggressive towards divers if molested, so it's, as always, don't harass sharks if you're in the water because they will bite you. It doesn't matter what kind of species it is, it's always best to leave a shark alone. It's always right to just give it space. So, On Fishbase, let's see if we have any new information. So the Latin name is interesting. Negaprion, so we have negatus, which is to deny, and prion, which is saw, referring to the lack of saw-like serrations on teeth. So that's actually kind of interesting species name. Brevi is short, like brief, and rostrum is snout, referring to the short, flat, and broadly rounded snout. So the Latin name Negaprion brevirostris means no saw teeth. It's a short-snouted shark without saw teeth, which is kind of unusual scientific name for a species that's characteristically yellow. It would be kind of cool if the Latin name was something a little bit more referential to that. But anyway, reconfirming that it is a shallow water species, so depth range of 0 to 92 meters, so very, very shallow water. Marine, brackish, reef associated. Let's see. Brownish shark with yellow overtones but no conspicuous markings. Large second dorsal fin nearly same size as first dorsal. Biology occurs on continental and insular shelves, frequenting mangrove fringes, coral keys, docks, and or sand or coral mud bottoms, saline creeks, enclosed bays or sounds, and river mouths. May enter fresh water. Occasionally moves into the open ocean, near or at the surface, apparently for the purpose of migration. May rest motionless on the bottom, so really cool that this species, again, is a buccal pumper, so just can chill out. It doesn't need to swim in order to breathe. It could actually actively pump water with its gills. It may occur singly or in small groups. Feeds mainly on fish, but also takes crustaceans and mollusks. Live bearing 4 to 17 young. Size of birth about 60 to 65 centimeters. Has been involved in several attacks on people, but really not that many. Okay. See if we can get any more clips. Here's a really cool one. This is the Cape Fear, North Carolina shark cam, which is a really great showcase of Carolinian wildlife. And you have a lemon shark just drifting in the current, which is so cool. What's fun about the Carolinas is that you get a lot of tropical species in the warm season. I think this is another clip from the Cape Fear shark cam. So lemon shark cruising very closely. It's a really nicely sized individual, actually, with remora attached to it. So remora are pretty interesting fish, where they have a highly modified dorsal fin that acts like a sucker. So they suction onto sharks, rays, and whales in order to hitch a ride, and also collect food that those animals may have accidentally dropped. It's a really cool shot of a lemon shark swimming on a boat for a dive, presumably somewhere in the Caribbean or Florida or maybe the Bahamas. Beautiful animal that's probably a couple years old. It looks to be definitely a younger individual, but still fairly sizable. And it's so cool to see how close it's sticking to the bottom. You have all these remora, crowding around the shark's body, which is so cool. What a dive experience, by the way. Imagine just like sitting there and having this beautiful shark, which really is, it's not a threat, honestly. There's just beautiful shark cruising around you, curious and interested. It's such a great experience. And it's kind of fun to see in this clip that this shark is actually, spending a lot of time around the people. So it seems a bit interested in what the people are doing. I don't know if they may have baited the water or chummed the water to begin with, or maybe the shark is just genuinely curious about what all these divers are doing underneath the boat. Again, it is a fish eater, so it's not a threat. It's not looking at these people as a prey item. I think it's just kind of more curious about what they're doing here, which is so cool to see. And swimming in a very relaxed manner, so not being aggressive. I love the shot of partial seagrass. So you have a mostly sandy bottom, but you have couple tufts of seagrass rising up. Seagrass is such a great habitat, um, and I really appreciate projects that plant seagrass and there's a little starfish there too. Plant seagrass to try to help restore it. It's a habitat that's been damaged in a lot of parts of the eastern coast of North America, but it's such a great habitat for fish to grow up in. So seagrass and mangroves, those are two plant-based habitats that really truly are nurseries for animals and actually support a great ecosystem for sharks to live and grow in. So. I think I have one more clip of a lemon shark dive. Although I think this is the first one we were taking a look at, so. Interesting interaction with this diver where you shouldn't be petting sharks, but it looks like that lemon shark was kind of heading towards the diver directly, so the diver is hand feeding it, but also if the shark gets too close, kind of gently intercepting it. One thing that you notice in some of these clips is that there's some pretty distinct ampullae lorenzini, so the electrosensing organs on the lemon shark's snout. They're pretty enlarged pores, and I'm not sure what the advantage would be, but around the head too, you can see these like very, very prominent pores. If they are larger than other sharks proportionally, then my guess is maybe it helps amplify their electrosense, and that will help them in hunting in murky water, or in mangrove habitats. Such amazing animals. I love this silly citrus, oh my goodness. Absolutely stunning name. Actually, Roy, I just realized your profile picture is a lemon shark, isn't it? I just connected two and two together. That I believe you have a lemon shark. That might be. I don't know if there's a cleaner wrasse in that profile picture, but that definitely looks a lot like a lemon shark sitting on the seabed, which is so cool. So, again, glad you're here. This is a special episode for tonight, but. Yeah, because it looks like just the tropical water, and yeah, I'm almost certain that's a lemon. Oh, why? Yes, indeed. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Let's see what else we can learn about the species. I think we hit the main sources before we get into conservation. Let's see. Another great shot of a lemon shark here with a bull shark in the background. Actually, it's a little wild to see. So conservation for lemon sharks. This is a vulnerable species, so not doing so well. Better than an endangered species, but not doing as well as other kinds of sharks. The home range of lemon sharks is it's actually pretty interesting how IUCN Red List has mapped it. So it was talking about how New Jersey was their northern limit, but this map is showing North Carolina. And I know for a fact that we have lemon sharks in Virginia, so I think this could be expanded later. So New Jersey makes sense because it's a similar temperature regime to the eastern shore of Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware. So it's a little bit colder, but you could still get lemon sharks there. So but you have all up and down the Mid-Atlantic and southern coast of the U.S. and Gulf of Mexico, all across the Caribbean Sea, the Greater Antilles, Bahamas, South America, Western Africa. Didn't realize that lemon sharks could live all the way down in Uruguay, so interesting. And then a slight Pacific presence in Baja California, Costa Rica, and Ecuador, and Colombia, which is pretty interesting. As far as assessment information, I'm very curious to see what's going on. The lemon shark is a large shark found in the Atlantic and eastern central and southeast Pacific, ranging from Virginia, United States of America, to southern Brazil, including the Caribbean Sea and the western Atlantic, and from Mauritania to Angola, including Cape Verde and Sao Tome and Principe in the eastern Atlantic. It ranges from northern Mexico to Ecuador in the eastern Pacific. The species inhabits shallow inshore tropical and subtropical waters around coral reefs and mangrove fringes on continental and insular shelves from the surface to a depth of 92 meters. It is taken mainly in artisanal gillnet and longline fisheries, which are intense and largely unmanned throughout its range. The species was formerly common in the Gulf of California in the 1960s, but has since become rare there, and extensive surveys of multiple landing sites of 1998 to 1999 did not encounter the species. So this is pretty sad. Gulf of California, I want to make sure this is what I'm thinking it is, Gulf of California. Right, so it's also known as the Sea of Cortez, and I think this is where, we've talked about vaquitas before, but pretty sure this is where the rarest cetacean in the world lives. So let's see, there's some red list, vaquita. There was some good vaquita news lately where there's a couple breeding individuals, which is great, but vaquita, here we go. We talked about vaquitas before, but this is the rarest marine mammal in the world. It's critically endangered, and it lives in a very limited range in the same habitat, so Gulf of California. Number of mature individuals is 18. Let's see. I'm just doing a quick look at vaquitas. Projections of 2015 population abundance using observed rate of decline result in extinction being likely, greater than 50% within 10 years. This is acknowledged to underestimate risk, but the species still clearly meets the criterion exceeding the 50% probability of extinction within 3 generations. Really sad. So, vaquitas are critically endangered, the rarest marine mammal in the world, and a big part of why they are not doing well is there's a huge fisheries presence in this area. I think for tilefish, I want to say specifically. So it's really sad that in the same area, lemon sharks have been possibly extirpated. So the intense fishing activity in the Gulf of California, Baja California, Sea of Cortez, this area, it's sad to see that just as it's negatively impacted the vaquita, it seems like it's negatively impacted this population of lemon sharks. So. Similar patterns of decline occurred in Brazil, where it's considered extinct in the state of Sao Paulo, and there have been no recent records in Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo, and Espírito Santo. In the eastern, central, and southeast Atlantic, the species now appears to be rare, yet was formerly abundant in Banco de Arguin, Mauritania, and has been depleted by the 1990s and not seen there since 2009. The species now only seems common in the Cape Verde and is rare elsewhere in West Africa. Artisanal commercial target and bycatch fishing pressure is intense and management is lacking throughout much of its range. It is suspected that the lemon shark has undergone a population reduction of 50 to 79% over the past 3 generation lengths in approximately 3/4 of its range in the southwest and eastern central Atlantic and eastern central and southeast Pacific. However, this species is likely to be stable in the western central and northwest Atlantic part of its range, which likely has significant fraction of suitable habitat and lower fishing pressure. So in these very popular lemon shark dive locations, it looks like it's a safer area for the species overall. It is suspected the lemon shark has undergone a population reduction of 30 to 49% over the past 3 generation lengths, or 50 years, based on abundance indices, regional decline in the area of occupancy, and actual levels of exploitation, and is assessed as vulnerable. So, I would not be surprised if lemon sharks one day get some kind of protection. Maybe some major protection, like CITES or CMS. I wouldn't be surprised since other populations seem to not be faring so well. So, oh, sorry, Howard, I just saw that. So vaquitas are actually porpoises. So they are, and let me see if we can get a vaquita. So they're very, very small, very gentle looking porpoises. They're very, very sensitive to fishing. Which is really sad. They are these adorable little porpoises that, and I think they might be the smallest porpoise in the world, if I'm not mistaken. But they're once they're in a fishing net, they stress out really quickly, and they really don't fare well in human pressure, which is really sad. But look at like the shadowy little eye spot and shadowy little mouth and the top of the head. It's a really cool looking animal. Really beautiful little porpoise. And also, speaking of porpoises, I want to double check. Oh wow, look at this. What a horrible image. But a vaquita being landed in the same. Oh, there's a lot going on here. Sorry, this is a vaquita being landed in the same hull as a mako shark, and there's something underneath the mako shark that I think that might be. I'm not sure what kind of fish that is, but I thought that was an angel shark first or a second. But yeah, it just shows you that this area, it's so heavily fished that it's such a major issue for this species, but a lot of other species, including, unfortunately, lemon shark in this area. So, vaquita Wikipedia. I'm curious, I want to double check. Porpoises are a unique group of cetaceans. There's a good size comparison of a vaquita with a diver. They're very adorable. Family is Phocionidae. Porpoises. So they're their own family. I was going to say, like, porpoises and dolphins are different families of whale, which I didn't realize. So they're in the same superfamily, but they're actually technically different families. So, harbor porpoise. Oh. Doll's porpoise, which is a really beautiful one. So they're really cool little animals. Like they're not true dolphins. They're kind of like their own thing. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, shout out to the vaquita. Let's see, vaquita conservation protections. What's going on with it? Let's see. International Committee for the Recovery of the Vaquita was established in 1997. Has developed many recommendations over its 11 reports. The most consistent and important recommendation is to permanently ban the manufacture, possession, or use of all gill nets on land or sea throughout the range of the vaquita. In 2017, a permanent ban was published in Mexican regulations and made the use or transport of gill nets illegal, with exemptions for fishing of 2 species, Curvina and Sierra. Night fishing was banned and legal entry and exit points were restricted. CERVA, which is vaquita, Committee for Recovery of the Vaquita, recommended that as many vaquitas as possible be captured and moved into a sanctuary as quickly as possible, but the capture and protection effort in 2017 failed. So I remember when this happened, because I was devastated when this happened. The capture team accidentally killed a vaquita that they were trying to save. It was a horrible, horrible thing, and it was just it was just a mishandled operation that is just so upsetting. I was really upset hearing that news when that happened. Because I mean, it's not only sad to begin with, but it's one of the rarest marine mammals in the world, and it's just it's just I it's quite a whole other episode could be dedicated to this. It obviously was a very controversial event that happened, where some have argued that it was a good faith effort, and if nothing was done, it would be leaving the vaquitas to their fate. But some have argued that it was humans meddling, over meddling, and unnecessarily killing a vaquita just for no good reason at the end of the day. So it was just like there's been a lot of back and forth about that incident. So from September 2020 to April 2021, Mexico enacted a new series of regulations. An agreement is published in the Federal Register of Gillnet Exclusion Zone that established these restrictions. A zero tolerance area of no fishing or entry allowed within a year-round 24-hour enforcement through maritime, air, satellite patrol. So it's great to see that there's like a pretty robust effort for protecting the vaquita. A ban on the possession, manufacture, sale, transportation, gillnet in or around the zone. Set of restrictions banning fishing at night, specifying landing sites, reported bycatch and lost gear, and requiring mandatory vessel monitoring systems for all small fishing vessels. Removing of illegal and ghost nets, and surrender of all gillnets by fishers within 60 calendar days of the date of publication. Despite these and numerous other protective measures, gillnetting remains the primary fishing gear used even in the area inhabited by the last few vaquitas alive. It's really horrible. So, I mean, obviously there's a lot of effort going on in this area to help protect them, but it's really sad to see that there's probably a lot of pressure, trying to keep some of these fishing methods afloat, and it's just... the reason why I'm diving into this so much is the range of this animal, again, overlaps with the range of the Pacific population of lemon sharks. So I was just kind of curious what the vaquita management measures, how they may indirectly impact the lemon shark. So... and Roy, I just saw your question. Unfortunately, there's only 18 vaquitas, so I think they have a population tracker here, which is really kind of wild when you think about it. As a different kind of comparison, I wonder if they have a humpback whale. Let's see, population number estimate, and a blue whale too. I think marine mammals, they get... Okay, they don't have one for humpback whale. Let's see. Blue whale. I think marine mammals typically get some good population estimates on how many individuals are left. Okay, blue whales. Okay, great. So blue whales, the largest animal in the world, it's only 5,000 to 15,000 of them. And vaquitas, there's only 18. What's kind of wild to think about is compare this to the size of a city or a town. So a town of 18 people is a village. It's extremely small population. A city of 5,000 to 15,000, that's more like a sizable college campus, or like a good small city or moderately sized town, and it's incredible to think that that's how many blue whales there are in the world. Is that number of individuals? It's kind of weird making that comparison and kind of thinking about that, and just really puts it in perspective. So, just like how few some marine mammals are, compared to the amount of humans in the world. But again, if you want to extrapolate that argument, you can make that argument about bugs, and there's like billions of bugs versus the amount of humans. So I don't know. I don't think sharks have. I don't think there's any shark species that has a population assessment in terms of how many mature individuals. Whales are easier to track because they have to come to the surface to breathe, and they're such charismatic and fascinating animals that there's been a lot of extensive studies of populations and, you know, like their breeding dynamics. Actually, there is some interesting whale news. I believe they recently clarified that there's two separate species of orca whale, which is kind of cool. So that was something that came out, I think, this month actually. So, but yes, 18 is it's really scary. It's really scary that that's the only amount that they had left. And I think one weird thing is I'm pretty sure there was a point where there was only 10 left. And I really appreciate that that number has gone up, but that is a terrifyingly small amount. And you have to think about genetics in terms of how many mature individuals do you need for a healthy genetic population. And actually, let's see if we can. I'm just going to Google that because I don't want to crash the bandwidth, but this gets into an interesting dimension of population dynamic studies where it's not just the number of individuals, but what is their genetic diversity like? And do you have enough individuals to create a diverse and robust gene pool? Because if you have too narrow of a gene pool, you can create inbreeding effect, and depending on the severity of the inbreeding, you could have debilitating results, or sometimes I think depending on the scenario in some animals, inbred populations like may not be able to reproduce. There's a lot that could be there's a lot that goes wrong with when there's not a diverse gene pool. So a famous example is cheetahs. Cheetahs have a kind of a alarming genetic bottleneck, and there's a lot of active efforts for introducing different cheetah populations, like individuals from different populations, to the other populations to help kind of diversify that gene pool. So, but I'm gonna just Google this. How many mature individuals do you need for a healthy genetic population? Okay, a healthy long-term genetic population. This is just AI. First thing that comes out of the Google search. A healthy long-term genetic population typically requires an effective population size of 500 to 1,000 individuals to maintain genetic diversity and avoid severe inbreeding. Short-term survival to prevent immediate inbreeding depression requires a minimum of 50 to 100 individuals. So, in either scenario, vaquitas are in really big trouble, which is really sad. On a positive note, blue whales seem to be okay. Blue whales definitely have enough to maintain a healthy population, but vaquitas, 18 individuals, that's incredibly sad. So, yes, Howard, 100%, very precarious, especially considering their localized population. It is very, very sad as far as the vaquitas situation. One Hail Mary, if you will, like one potential longest of long shots thing that I'm just speculating. I don't know if this would actually work, but we are entering into this and have entered into an age where there's a much better genetic understanding, or much better understanding of genetics, and we're getting closer and closer to the ability to kind of play with genetics, and the ability to kind of like get into some Jurassic Park territory where you can. I mean, remember the whole dire wolf thing of last year that was really making headlines, where you're getting closer to the point where you can help resurrect extinct species, or you like kind of play with the genetic code to modify or modify like the genetic code of species. There's already been in the past 10 or 20 years at least, probably more. Um, you know, studies and experiments on that. And with that, I kind of wonder, and this is just pure speculation. I just wonder if maybe the vaquita one day would benefit from that. Like maybe there could be some, perhaps a Hail Mary pass for altering the genetic code of vaquitas to help or taking genetic samples of vaquitas and altering genetic code to kind of help diversify the gene pool to help save the species. That is such a long shot, is the longest of long shots, but that's the only thing I can think of because the natural organic population of vaquitas, clearly it's alarmingly very small. So I don't know if that's something that could be done because I know there have been interesting studies like the one that I think about a lot is, and I've shared it a lot on the stream, is Chickensaurus, which is this genetic study where they took the embryos of chickens and modified the genetics to try to reactivate ancient dinosaur traits. And they got as far as they were able to recreate a dinosaur's long balancing tail. And they were also able to recreate or reactivate the genes to create teeth as opposed to a beak in some of the Chickensaurus embryos. So this was, ironically enough, a project that I think Jack Horner was involved with. And I think it's shut down. I don't really know what happened to the Chickensaurus project because that was like 2016, I want to say, 2015, 2016. So, but the fact that they were doing that, and now we're 10 years later, and is increasing talk about genetic capability. I'm curious if longest of long shots is something that could help the vaquita, but I don't really know. That's just pure speculation, purely spitballing on my part. But unfortunately, it's all I can come up with right now as far as how do you really help a population of 18 individuals. So it's sad. On a more positive note, as far as populations, it would be really cool to reintroduce lemon sharks from healthy populations in the Caribbean to other parts of the world to see if they can reestablish in their natural habitat. So, for lemon shark conservation, let's see what actions are taking place. So, conservation actions for the lemon shark. In July 2006, the United States U.S. National Marine Fisheries Service finalized the Consolidated Atlantic Highly Migratory Species Federal Management Plan. This federal management plan includes a range of management measures, including quotas and seasonal closures. New habitat areas of particular concern are being developed for lemon shark to reflect recommendations in the 2015 5-year review of the highly migratory species essential fish habitat in USA. Lemon sharks are prohibited from being harvested in state waters of Florida, where most of the U.S. habitat occurs. So that's great. I'm glad the U.S. state of Florida prohibits lemon shark fishing. Let's check Florida fishing regulations, actually. Florida shark fishing regulations. Because last time I checked, it was a little suspicious. But let's see. Okay. Yep. Okay. So kind of suspicious because the first thing here for the Florida fishing regulations, it says harvestable sharks that has a bonnet head, which is an endangered species, which is sad. So in Florida, harvestable sharks are you can catch 1 shark per person per day, 2 sharks per vessel. That means the maximum number of sharks that can be retained from a vessel is 2 sharks, even if more than 2 anglers are on board. You can harvest Atlantic sharpnose, which is fine, black nose, black tip, bonnethead, which is endangered, fine tooth, which I don't think they're doing super great, smooth dogfish, which is fine, Florida smoothhound, Gulf smoothhound. You can also harvest bull, nurse, spinner, blue, poor beagle, which is not great, and thresher shark. The sharks that you can't harvest are sand devil or Atlantic angel, which is good call. Basking shark, great call. Big eye sand tiger, big eye six gill, big eye thresher, big nose, Caribbean reef, Caribbean sharp nose, dusky shark, Galapagos shark, great hammerhead, lemon shark, longfin mako, narrow tooth. This is actually a bronze whaler. Night shark, oceanic white tip, sandbar, sand tiger, scalloped hammerhead, seven gill, short fin mako, silky shark, six gill shark, small tail shark, smooth hammerhead, spiny dogfish, tiger shark, whale shark, and white shark. So I actually have to give Florida credit. That is actually a fantastic list of prohibited shark species. Some of these are a little bit preventative, which is great. I think Caribbean reef shark is kind of preventative. And what else is here? Lemon shark is a little bit preventative too. So that's actually a great list. Shout out to Florida. That is actually a really good prohibited shark list. So I will say some knucklehead caught a white shark a couple months ago, and I'm pleased to say that I think it was Dr. David Schiffman called that guy out because this person was bragging that they hauled a white shark, and Dr. Schiffman rightfully called them out and reported them to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Service. So just to identify that person caught a prohibited species. So I appreciate that Florida actually does have a nice prohibited shark list. That's actually a pretty good list. So Tyrannosaurus rooster. Yeah. Howard, close off the Gulf of Cortez and make it a protected zone. That'd be super cool. Will the Floridians listen, though? Probably not. Yeah, Florida is such a weird state, and I can say that as someone who used to live there. It's such a strange state where, obviously, there's a lot of classic Florida man, like the meme Florida man. There's a lot of people like that. But there is also a strong conservation community in Florida too, and actually I've been pleasantly surprised in some of the places I've been to in Florida how aware they are as far as conservation goes, where they have some good management measures in place, which I really appreciate, but it's hit and miss. They can have like really great protections for like sea turtle nests, as an example. Paper straws, strict littering rules. That's great, but you also have like huge amounts of red tide, which that's a hard problem to solve because that's very much temperature related. But I don't know. It's hit or miss. It's a very strange state as far as a lot of good aspects. A lot of really actually top of the line shark research is done in Florida. Some of the best shark research institutes in the world are in Florida. And Moat Marine Lab, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, is also established in Florida by Eugenie Clark. Dr. Clark, one of the most famous shark scientists in the world. So a lot of good stuff has come from Florida. But also a lot of crap has happened too. So I'm very pleasantly. I appreciate the prohibited shark list. That's a really good list from Florida. As far as Floridians obeying it, I think it's going to be half and half. Kind of related to how the state works. So misidentification of lemon sharks is widespread and likely to hinder monitoring and conservation efforts. In the Bahamas, longline fishing was banned in 1993, and peak elasmobranch export occurred the same year. The export steadily declined until the last export of any elasmobranch product from the Bahamas occurred in 2004. That's actually really impressive. The Bahamas Shark Sanctuary was established in 2011 and is currently illegal to fish for, land, or possess any sharks or shark parts there. Enforcement is very underfunded and inadequate, making it possible that exploitation may be occurring at present or in the future. Cuba has designated 21% of the country as a marine protected area. There is no fishing for sharks or rays in these areas. The most important marine protected area is Jardines de la Reina, Alejandro de Humboldt, Guanacabives. Shark fishing is illegal in Jardines de la Reina Marine Reserve, and local guides have noted an increase in sightings of many species of reef-associated sharks, including this species since 1997, when this reserve was declared and enforcement of fishing regulation began. Cuba also has two places designed for diving with sharks, Santa Lucia and Jardines de la Reina. Cuba has a prohibition on finning, and in 2015 adopted a national plan of action for sharks. In Mexico, there is actually shout out to Cuba because it's not the first time I've heard Cuba is kind of like this conservation paradise. It's been this there's a lot of like really really wild, really well protected areas in Cuba. It's kind of like this interesting lost world, if you will. Like not lost world, I shouldn't say that, but it's there's parts of Cuba that definitely are very very well protected and very much untouched, or minimally impacted. So just want to shout out that they have such a large marine protected area, because that is actually a very large country compared to other places in the Caribbean. So in Mexico, there's a closed season for the shark fishery in May and June in the states of Tamaulipas, Veracruz, and Quintana Roo, and May 15th to June 15th and August 1st to 29th in the states of Tabasco, Campeche, and Yucatan. The official standard 2007 establishes management measures that prohibit finning. It also establishes that fishing is prohibited at the surrounding area of 5 kilometers of coral reefs, at adjacent areas, the front and mouth of river mouths and coastal lagoons, and in nursery areas in front of Playa Bagdad, Tamaulipas. There's a marine protected area of 30 kilometers from the Rio Bravo's mouth of Conchnal, Terminus Lagoon, Campeche, Usumacinta, Grijalva Rivers, Tabasco, Yalajao Lagoon, Quintana Roo, and Espiritu Santo and Ascension Bays, Quintana Roo. There's also a management plan for the National Protected Area Biosphere Reserve of the Mexican Caribbean that prohibits any lazarenic fishery in all this biosphere reserve that comprises all Mexican Caribbean. There are enforcement problems. So I won't read the entirety of the protection, but it looks like there's a lot going on related to the lemon shark, which is great. And related to sharks in general. So marine protected areas are wonderful in the sense that they provide a sanctuary for marine life, but they also enhance the surrounding productivity, or the productivity of surrounding areas too. So, nope. I just saw this comment. Moat Marine Lab, and then Florida man carries alligators or weapon does rob a 7-Eleven. Oh my gosh. Yep. That's that is on track for Florida man. So. Let's see. I like to look at a social lemon shark study. So let's see. Unexpected prey. Because I've heard that, maybe this one, I've heard that lemon sharks exhibit really interesting social behaviors, and I'm kind of curious to dive into that more. Stock assessment. Okay. Maybe this one. Personality and pace of life. Ecological lessons learned from free-ranging lemon sharks. Abstract. Let's see. Personality-driven life history trade-offs differ in 2 subpopulations of free-ranging predators. Life history theory predicts that exploitative individuals live fast but die young as they take risks to rapidly accumulate resources. Dilemmas et al. Show that fast exploring sharks forage in risky habitats where they grow fast but die young. In higher risk environments, however, this personality-related pace of life syndrome does not exist because neither fast nor slow exploring types venture out into risky areas. The study thereby reveals the key role of ecology as a mediator of personality-related pace of life syndromes in the wild. Okay, so this is a extremely interesting study I've never ever kind of heard of before as far as like this sort of field on behavior. Really excited to take a look. So this is the Journal of Animal Ecology. The study is by Niels J. Dingemans. All right. The role of behavior in the evolution of optimal life histories has become a forefront of research in contemporary behavioral ecology. This is not surprising, as behavior represents the primary interface between individuals and their environment. Over the past 2 decades, a suite of adaptive theory has been developed to predict the ecological conditions favoring the adaptive integration of behavior and life history. The functional integration of risk-taking in life history has been a particular focus of research. Risk-taking behavior is functionally defined as any behavior that facilitates resource acquisition at the cost of increased risk of predation, parasitism, or starvation, and may therefore represent a behavioral mediator of life history trade-offs. And I apologize if I'm not pronouncing this correctly. Gillemes et al. Firmly put this idea to the test in a longitudinal study of free-ranging lemon sharks, Negaprion brevirostris. This is immediately fascinating. I'm very excited to read those. Research focusing on the adaptive integration behavior in life history has been gaining momentum primarily due to the discovery that behavioral traits are both repeatable and heritable within single populations, and the quest for revealing the ecological conditions that may favor the adaptive emergence of repeatable behavior, aka animal personality. Theoreticians have addressed this issue by proposing that individuals' future fitness expectations, residual reproductive value, can be viewed as a state variable affecting the balance of costs and benefits of risk-taking as defined above, causing those with few reproductive assets to boldly acquire resources, but those with many to shyly protect them instead. Bold individuals, therefore, should live fast but die young. This is so interesting. More recently, behavioral ecologists have an integrated ecological theory developed to understand variation of pace of life among populations and species, focusing on the functional integration of phenotypic traits in life history and the pace of life syndromes among individuals of the same population. Many empirical tests of theory, however, either failed to support the existence of predicted personality-related pace of life syndrome, or otherwise, at best, provide ambiguous support, leaving the field in crisis. Wow. Demonstrate how this impasse may be... Gillemes et al. Demonstrate how this impasse may be resolved by firmly testing two major explanations for the mismatch between theory and empirical data. This is really interesting. It sounds a little quacky, but I'm kind of curious where this is going to go. Both explanations imply that most empirical tests of theory are in fact inappropriate. First, most studies of personality-related pace of life syndromes assume rather than demonstrate variation in pace of life. Gillemes et al. Firmly put this key assumption to the test by estimating whether growth rate is under negative survival selection in the wild. Using a longitudinal dataset spanning 23 years, they demonstrate that this is indeed the case in both of two subpopulations under study, thereby firmly demonstrating the existence of the predicted growth-mortality trade-off. Second, the integration between pace of life and individual behavior is expected for behaviors facilitating resource acquisition and growth at the cost of increased predation risk. Let's see. Researchers commonly subject animals to standardization behavioral assays under semi-natural conditions and again assume, rather than demonstrate, that the focal risk-taking assay predicts risk-taking behavior in the wild. Gillemes et al. Measured exploration behavior ranging from slow to fast during short-term captivity, after which they used acoustic telemetry to establish whether exploration also represented a proxy for risk-taking during foraging in the wild. Lemon sharks can forage either in mangrove edges where predators cannot enter or away from cover in more productive seagrass patches. The lemon shark system also passes this test as faster explorers were more likely to forage away from the coast. Although the study system is therefore extremely suitable for testing whether personality mediates the trade-off between growth and mortality, resulting in personality-related pace of life syndrome. Alright, so the concept is extremely interesting, but I'm nervous that this is going to go... I'm nervous that there's so many variables that you can't really quite predict and account for in this kind of study that I'm just a little nervous about. Is it the shark's personality, or is it other environmental factors that might be affecting its behavior and its success? This gets really tricky. Well, the verification of these two major assumptions demonstrates the scientific scrutiny required for convincingly testing personality trait related ecological theory. Its foremost major contribution lies in demonstration of the key role of ecology. Okay.
I'm just going to summarize the rest because this is getting a little weird. Two subpopulations of lemon shark. One was predator poor, the North Sound population, and the other is predator rich sharkland. As expected, sharkland sharks of better personality type on average observed much closer to mangrove edges. As a consequence, the relationship between exploration behavior and risk taken during foraging did not exist in the predator-rich subpopulation. Explorative sharks only took foraging risk in the predator-poor subpopulation. Interesting twist of stories that the growth-mortality trade-off characterized both subpopulations despite the fact that a personality-related Paisley syndrome exists only in a predator-poor environment. Okay, I feel like this is kind of... This is getting a little weird. Tell me what you guys think, because I kind of think this is going around in circles a little bit, and I'm concerned with... there's assumption... I feel like there are assumptions still in terms of, like, how do you tell a lemon shark's personality? And... this seems like a little bit too vague. What do you guys think? I just saw a comment. Oh my goodness, I'm not as fascinated as they are. This study seems a little weird. Where I don't know. This does not convincingly show me that they're measuring two genuine modes of behavior, where there's a risk-taking set of lemon sharks and there's a more like passive set of lemon sharks. I think this is a little bit weird. So let's see. Let's find a different behavioral study, because I'm kind of curious if there's just something else we can learn about. Distribution, length, composition. Okay, here we go. Are some sharks more social than others? Short and long-term consistencies in the social behavior of juvenile lemon sharks. Here we go. This is a little bit better. This is by J.S. Finger, T.L. Guttridge, A.D.M. Wilson, S.H. Gruber, and J. Krause. And I know Gruber. Gruber is very, very famous in the shark world, so here we go. Despite substantial research interest in understanding individual level consistency and behavioral attributes, significant knowledge gaps remain across traits and taxa. For example, relatively few studies have looked at social personality in large marine species, such as lasbrinks, and whether or not individual differences of behavior are maintained in unstable social groups, for example, fission fusion dynamics. However, it is important to investigate this topic in other model species than the usually small species with short generation times typically investigated in these areas of behavioral ecology. Indeed, studies on ecologically diverse taxa could provide mechanistic insights into the emergence and maintenance of animal personality and dynamics of social groups in animals. In addition, understanding social behavior at the group and individual level could improve conservation management of these large animals with long generation times, for example, removal of particular behavioral types by fisheries practices. Here we investigated consistent individual differences in sociability in wild juvenile lemon sharks over both short and long-term sampling periods. Individual sharks were observed in social groups and scored according to the number of social interactions performed during observations. Despite variable individual group compositions between retreated trials, sharks show consistent individual differences in their social behavior over both timescales. These results suggested reduced plasticity and highlight individuality as an important explanatory variable for the social dynamics of juvenile lemon sharks. In addition, long-term stability observed in this wild population demonstrates the importance of personality in the daily behavioral repertoire of juvenile lemon sharks. Our results are discussed in the context of other shark studies and taxonomic groups, and potential avenues for future shark research are proposed. Let's see. So, we unfortunately can't see the entire study, but the abstract is very interesting, where, long story short, it's saying that there are personality traits in individual sharks, which is really cool. It's something that we have seen in other species, like white sharks famously have
unique personalities. Some are shy, some are a little bit bolder, some are a little aggressive. They have a whole spectrum of personalities. And they actually relate to each other in an interesting way, where white sharks will either cooperatively hunt or push another individual out of a territory and assert dominance in a certain territory. They definitely mind each other, interact with each other, exhibit a wide variety of social behaviors with each other. So it's really cool to see that in lemon sharks as well. That lemon sharks have personalities, and it's also especially cool to see that the fact that the long-term health of the population is stable. I agree that that does suggest that the variety of personalities, the diversity of personalities, helps the long-term stability of the population. That's actually kind of part of the story of evolution in general, where you can't have everything following one trait, because if you have a catastrophe that wipes out that one trait, the species ends. So, for example, you cannot have a population of completely trusting animals like the dodo. You cannot have dodos who waltz up and say, "Oh, hi, human. I think you're a friend." And the humans, unfortunately, wipe the dodos out. If you had a variety of behavioral types where you had dodos that were trusting of humans, dodos that were wary of humans, that might have spelled a different story for that species' fate. So that's a little bit of like a harebrained example, because I'm not sure how much of the dodo's behavior versus the fact that they were on an island and probably easily exploitable by being on an island. I don't know how much of that really related, but the point is, like, you don't want to. It's always good to have a diversity of cards in your deck. If you only have the same card to play every single time, it is a higher extinction risk, which is really, really fascinating. So, dinosaurs as a group are an interesting example, because the one card that they had to play was that they achieved these titanic sizes. They were huge, but they were wiped out, and it paved way for smaller animals to take over their niche, which is pretty interesting. So, let's see what other behavioral studies we could find. Okay, here we go. The effects of familiarity on the social interactions of juvenile lemon sharks. Okay, lemon sharks, this is interesting. Lemon sharks show a significant preference for familiar individuals. So, lemon sharks apparently perhaps recognize individuals. So they kind of... That was interesting. Catching up with the comments, but it looks like lemon sharks recognize individuals. Howard, I wouldn't presume to gauge a shark's personality. Rory, yeah, true. The avenue needs a lot more searching. Yeah, agreed. Because it's like that first study that we read, it was starting to get a little quacky for me, where it was just like, it's how do you know? Like, how do you really tell, other than you have demonstrable examples of a shark? You have to have demonstrable examples of a shark exuding a behavior that without a doubt relates to its personality, and it can't be related to environmental factors. It can't be related to stimuli. A great slippery slope to talk about is whale shark aggregations, where there's a famous whale shark aggregation in Mexico, and I think ironically the Baja California, like Sea of Cortez. And why are the whale sharks gathering there? Is it because they all remember, like elephants, and they have this like strong migration instinct? Or is it because they're just simply following plankton blooms or the path of their prey items, and it just leads them all to this congregation accidentally? And so they're not really consciously remembering anything. They're not really like, following the stars or remembering their parents or something. They're really just kind of responding to stimuli. So, and that's a really great example, because I don't think there was any science saying that they remember, but there was like a lot of... I remember when, I think over a decade ago, there was like this... It might have been like a newspaper article or something talking about like why whale sharks congregate here. Do they remember? And that started to kind of raised a lot of questions where people were like, no, it may not be that. It's a slippery slope. And science is a slippery, like, that kind of science is very slippery where it's like, you got to be really careful. Like, how do you define the parameters to prove or to kind of demonstrate, not prove, but demonstrate that it's behavior and not stimulus, you know? Like, for example, if I pricked my finger and screamed, I would, am I exuding angry behavior? Am I an angry person? Or is that a physical stimulus and a physical reaction to pain? So it's just like, that's the territory it's getting into, which is kind of interesting and very, very tricky. So, Howard, I guess scientists studying localized shark communities may be able to make very general observations, such as some individuals being more aggressive than another. So that's a great point. And actually, what's really cool is that we have great dedicated communities like Bimini as a fantastic source of information on populations, because there's a dedicated shark dive operation, there's a dedicated and predictable set of sharks that congregate in these areas. And then Beka Lagoon, Fiji, that's another great source of information. And actually a couple white shark dive sites too, in either South Africa or maybe Australia, where there's predictable populations. Although actually white sharks might not be a good example because they're very wide ranging. So let's go back to Bimini and Beka Lagoon, because those are predictable populations of individuals. So whale shark forest site cartoon, I was following you. Love that, Tim. So let's see. Lemon sharks showed a significant preference for familiar individuals. Capture location and length did not significantly impact interactions. Findings suggest individuals are potentially capable of individual recognition. Findings offer explanatory mechanism for wild trials with repeated partnership. So who wrote this study? Oh my gosh, okay. This is great. Brian A. Keller. So speaking of Bimini, I mean, Samuel H. Gruber, world famous shark scientist. This is his domain. I'm pretty sure Dr. Samuel Gruber is a huge part, one of the founders basically of the Shark Lab. I just want to make absolutely sure I got this right. Yes, he is professor at University of Miami's Rosenthal School of Marine Science, Marine and Atmospheric Science, and the founder of the Bimini Biological Field Station Foundation. So he's incredibly famous scientist and definitely the authority of this kind of research. It's so cool. Investigating the individual preferences using social network analysis has contributed to understanding group formations, which hold significant evolutionary value, and the dynamics occurring within them across the animal kingdom. Groups of sharks have been observed for centuries, and understanding the mechanisms that facilitate their formation furthers our comprehension of the adaptive value of sociality. However, there's a dearth of quantitative analysis on these mechanisms. The preference for familiars can influence group formation and facilitate increased levels of fitness. This preference has been documented across many vertebrate classes, but has not yet not been shown to have an overall effect on partner preference in quadrichthyid fishes. This deficiency is significant due to the tax's ecological diversification and importance. In the study, we used behavioral experiments to assess the potential role of familiarity in group formation and on social behavior in a large marine vertebrate. Juvenile lemon sharks, Negaprion brevirostris, in Bimini, Bahamas were separated into holding pens according to their size and given 14 days to familiarize with their cohort. 2 pairs of sharks were selected from separate holding pens and introduced in a social network pen for a behavioral trial. SNA, so the social network analysis, indicated that lemon sharks showed a significant preference for familiar individuals performing more social interactions, such as closely following, with individuals from their holding pen. We suggest that this preference for familiars is developed through repeated interactions and facilitates the advantages of maintaining stable behavioral interactions, which results in spatial isolation from unfamiliars. These findings advance our understanding of the mechanisms driving social structure in lemon sharks and other large marine predators, which contribute to the animal's overall fitness and evolutionary adaptability. So that's actually extremely cool that lemon sharks have some kind of awareness of one another and a preference to be near individuals that they have met before or that they're familiar with. That's so cool that they can do that. They're not just like swimming with any other lemon shark, without really a care. They actually have a little bit of a preference or a selection for familiar individuals. That's a pretty fascinating behavior, honestly. And some of that, I wonder if some of that relates to a familiar individual is a known quantity and is less risk than spending time with an unfamiliar individual, which is not necessarily dangerous, but is an unknown quantity. So that's kind of my speculation on like why they may have that preference. It's so interesting. So let's see. I won't read the entire thing word for word, but I'll just kind of skim through because this is a truly fascinating study. See if there's anything in particular that kind of stands out. Spatial distribution of animals is determined by factors including resource availability and social organization. Social structure represents a framework within foraging, predation, information transfer, reproduction, and other important behaviors take place. Social networks are created by measuring interactions or association strengths between individuals. The analysis of these networks reveal the factors driving social structure at both the individual and community level. This tool has been widely used to quantify social structure. Any underlying mechanism influences its framework in groups such as teleos, so bony fish, insects, whales. Ungulates, I think, are deer, I want to say, and primates. But let me make sure. Or maybe pigs. Hold on. Ungulates. What are those again? Deer. Okay, they're deer. Are they both? They actually might be both. Oh, they're everything. So I'm kind of going down a tangent. So ungulates include cetaceans, zebras, rhinos, deer, pigs, giraffe. Okay, so bison. Okay, sorry. Anyway, let's see. One such mechanism capable of influencing social structure is familiarity, which is developed over time. It can be measured by the relative number of interactions between two animals. The ability of animals to distinguish between familiars and unfamiliars has been documented in many vertebrate groups, including taxonomic classes, Mammalia, Reptilia, Aves, Amphibia, and Osteichthyes. But no discriminatory preference has been adequately documented within Chondrichthyes. So Osteichthyes is bony fish, Chondrichthyes is cartilaginous fish. Association with familiars has been shown to reduce the time to locate resources, to decrease aggression, to enhance social learning and social cohesion, to increase growth and health condition, and potentially to develop reciprocal altruism. So this is interesting. Altruism being the performance of behaviors that help another individual without any reward to yourself. So that's a pretty interesting behavior for animals to exhibit. These benefits can all provide a means for evolutionary adaptation by increasing animals' direct or indirect fitness. The potential for evolutionary adaptation is especially relevant when considering large numbers of animals, such as aggregations. The spatial ecology of sharks, skates, and rays can be influenced by variables including geographic location, photoperiod and season, temperature, the presence of prey, and reproductive status. Amongst elasmobranch fishes, aggregations are well known. When social interaction occurs within aggregations, they are deemed social groups. Until recently, the social grouping of elasmobranchs have been largely ignored. Some species, such as the lemon shark, the small spotted cat shark, and the black-tipped reef shark, have been repeatedly studied and have been shown to associate in social groups based on size, sex, species, and possibly kinship. Within these studies, overlapping activity patterns and space use could facilitate the preference for familiars.
Despite importance across other taxa, little effort has been spent investigating familiarity and its functional influence on group dynamics in the Lazarbanks. To our knowledge, the only attempt conducted by Jacobi et al. Demonstrated that independent familiar groups of juvenile Scalerinus caniculus, or cat sharks, form significantly more aggregations than the random distribution, while independent groups of unfamiliar sharks do not exhibit this trend. When groups of familiar and unfamiliar sharks were mixed, however, there was no overall effect of familiarity on partner preference. Familiar preference allows for the evolutionary success of the taxon and can act as a mechanism for further developing other social behaviors like social learning and reciprocal altruism. Interestingly, social learning has recently been demonstrated in the large spot river stingray and lemon shark, which suggests a familiar preference could exist within the Lazarbanks. The investigation of Lazarbank cognition has shown these behaviors are possible due to the advanced levels of development, similar to those of teleos and non-mammalian vertebrates. These complex abilities have contributed to the evolutionary success of the Lazarbanks and have become manifested in numerous social behaviors. As such, we expect that certain Lazarbanks are both capable and likely to prefer familiars. Understanding what factors influence familiar preference within the Lazarbanks will lead to a better comprehension of the evolutionary factors during the group success on both an inter-specific level. Let's see. So lemon sharks live in the eastern Pacific. So basic biology on lemon sharks. The efficacy to use the species as a model has been demonstrated by operant and classical conditioning and social learning trials. In Bimini, Bahamas, lemon sharks are abundant as a juvenile, hardy, and In Bimini, Bahamas, the lemon shark is abundant as a juvenile, hardy, and has been used in laboratory experiments for decades. The social organization and behavior of lemon sharks has been well documented in the past decade, revealing structure to be influenced by size, species, and possibly kinship. In a wild study, some groups of lemon sharks were repeatedly observed for up to 2 to 3 years. The social structure was able to be fully accounted for by size matching kin preference, and the preference for familiars was hypothesized to possibly drive these behaviors. Okay, results. Individuals were found to socialize significantly more familiars over the full hour of observation than would be expected by random. Discussion: when lemon sharks tested in a semi-captive environment associated significantly more familiar individuals than would be expected by random. Conclusion: they show that lemon sharks prefer familiar individuals. This preference slightly declined over the trial duration. The decline in preference suggests lemon sharks is initially preferring familiars to compensate for any negative interactions put forth by associative unfamiliars. In nature, this would likely result in social isolation between unfamiliar sharks, which would further the familiar preference between partners and increase the benefits of groups. So interesting. So I think it relates to a familiar shark is less risky to be around, and an unfamiliar shark is a bit of a risk. So they tend to isolate. It's actually kind of cool to think about when you think about how sharks behave, where you see a lot of sharks. It depends on the species, but a lot of sharks are solitary. And you think of like white sharks as an example. White sharks are as an example. Bull sharks. I'm thinking about the study because there was a Chesapeake Bay capture of 2 bull sharks, and bull sharks are not very common in the Chesapeake Bay, but I think two individuals are captured in close succession of one another, and it just kind of makes me wonder, did they exhibit kind of familiarity as well? Like, were they in the bay somewhat aware of each other and hunting kind of closely together, potentially? I don't know. It just hit me. Actually, let me see. 2 bull sharks, Chesapeake Bay.
I never thought about that before. Yeah, here we go. I'm just gonna click on Reddit. Two bull sharks pulled out of Potomac in southern Maryland this morning. Let's see. I know it was like two. No. Okay. I have to find it later, but I know there was an occurrence of two bull sharks being caught in very close succession of one another in Chesapeake Bay, which is such a weird thing because they're not common in the bay. So and I never thought those two sharks might have related to one another. They might have like as in like they may have demonstrated familiarity with one another, which is kind of interesting. It's so eye opening as far as like the world of sharks, like the behavior. It's so interesting. Lemon sharks be helping their neighbors more than us. This is numbers. St. Francis of Assisi would argue that altruism indicated lemon sharks had souls. They might eat souls. Oh my gosh, these are great comments. This is so cool. So cool. Yeah, I love these comments. Similarly, too, I believe all living things also have a spirit. So, and it's so cool to see this kind of behavior in sharks too, where, and the bull shark thing is kind of touching me in terms of, I just never really thought or realized that those two sharks, unfortunately, who were captured, I mean, they may have, like, the fact that they may have been familiar with one another, it doesn't necessarily mean that they were like buddies or anything, but it does mean that those two sharks, they may have possibly grown up in the same area, they may have possibly been in the same nursery, they may have possibly foraged in the same area, or maybe they kind of interacted in a similar space and then got used to each other and sort of followed each other up the coastline in their seasonal migrations. And like they could have been familiar, whereas like two sharks, like if one shark finds a source of prey, the other shark benefits from that, and vice versa. And it's very touching and very. It's sad that they were both captured, but it's very touching to think that, like like the stereotype of a shark is like it's a very rogue, solitary animal, but it's very touching that shark species might demonstrate this kind of this level of social sophistication. It's so interesting. So that was a great study. Let's see if there's any other social behavior studies. I know we have about 10 minutes left, but let's see. This one potentially it relates to long line capture. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, okay. Mouth cleaning of lemon sharks by shark suckers. So this is not quite a social thing, but it is an interesting behavior. So this is by Eric K. Ritter and Raid WMN. The coexistence between shark suckers and sharks is poorly understood. Here we study the symbiotic client-cleaner relationship between lemon sharks, Negaprion brevirostris, and shark suckers, Acanias nacrates, with a focus on cleaning inside the shark's mouths. Where observable, cleaning bouts were either initiated by a shark sucker moving along the shark's snout while maintaining body contact, or by swimming in a dance-like manner in front of the shark's eye without contact until the shark gaped to allow entry. So it's so cool to see that this little fish does little cues to help try to trigger the shark to open its mouth, which is so interesting. Whether that's the visual dance or it's rubbing up against the shark's snout and maybe stimulating the ampullae lorenzini. Shark suckers interacting with sharks were typically in their first year of their life. While being cleaned by shark suckers, lemon sharks were always seen in one of two positions, either lying flat on the seafloor or propped up on with their pectoral fins. Cleaning bouts lasted significantly longer when the shark was propped. In bouts where the location of shark sucker activity within the mouth could be determined, cleaning activity exclusively occurred around the teeth of the upper jaws. In more than half of the bouts, the sharks terminated the cleaning by spitting out the shark sucker. So terrible. In more than half the bouts, the shark terminated the cleaning by spitting out the shark sucker. This is a very dangerous profession. Overall, lemon sharks and shark suckers showed a highly evolved client-cleaner relationship, with both able to influence and trigger the other's behavior. So it's so cool that, right now, somewhere in the ocean, there's a whole other world of complex social dynamics, both within a species and between species. So it's fun that it's not just like these animals are merely existing in these reefs. It's that they're actually interacting with one another. They regard one another. They have some kind of connection to one another. It's actually this really cool, like interplay of life. It's such an amazing thing. So, and this happens in every animal and every interaction. But I think it's easy to kind of forget that this kind of stuff happens until you read studies like this, where it's like, wow, this is so cool. We might skip this because I just want to double check if there's any other studies, but Identification Guide to Common Sharks and Rays of the Caribbean. Let's just see if there's anything else. This was part of the top of the stream. I would mention that Maryland designated Megalodon as their state shark, which is very appropriate because they have a lot of Megalodon fossils, and it relates in the sense that there's a new study saying Megalodon's body shape was closer to a lemon shark. So I just mentioned it just because my wife and I were visiting Maryland, Calvert Cliffs, specifically trying to look for Megalodon teeth. We didn't find any, but it also kind of brought into focus that tonight's species is lemon shark, and there's this interesting recent study on Megalodon where the body shape was assumed to be closer to lemon shark, which is really cool. I think in the last 4 minutes we might end on this really cool identification guide, because I don't think I have any more behavioral studies, but I will also put this... Oh gosh. Oh my goodness, what did I just miss? I'm going to put this in the chat for future reference, but... oh my gosh. I know what you're talking about. I'm going to move on to just this Caribbean identification guide. So let's see what we can... I should be able to get most of these, to be honest, but we got lemon shark, scalped hammerhead, Atlantic sharpnose, long fin mako, short fin mako, Cuban dogfish. I think I got that. And then I'm not sure if the rays, but let's see. This would probably be a really cool guide to peruse later. But love to see the lemon shark entry before we wrap up for tonight. So, lemon shark, also known as Requin citron or Tiburon galano. So, key feature is first dorsal fin in front of pelvic fins, second dorsal fin almost as large as first dorsal fin. We have these really great diagram of the teeth over here, so upper teeth serrated and notch on both sides. We have a nice size comparison here, and actually a really beautiful shot of a lemon shark here, along with this really handy guide in terms of where you can find it. So it's not a deep water species, not a species that occupies islands. It's really more of like a shallow water shark that occupies a shelf. It does go into mangrove habitat, so this guide might need to update related to that. So, and then it shows kind of the gears that unfortunately sometimes capture the species. Similar species, sometimes, this would be very difficult to confuse it with, but from a distance, from the back, nurse sharks may look similar to lemon sharks because of the two dorsal fins, but obviously they're very, very different in terms of their face. Black nose shark is in the same family, but the second dorsal fin is much smaller, so not quite there. And I think that's it. A lot of really cool sharks in this guide. So I left it in the chat for everybody's perusal. It's Sharks of the Caribbean. So a lot of really cool species to take a look at. So, but I think with that, it's almost 11 o'clock East Coast time. So I think we'll wrap up for tonight. So Mr. Galano would be a dope name. Yeah. But I think we'll wrap up on a lemon shark. But overall, this was a pretty fun stream as far as learning about shark social behavior and giving the species its fair due. It's such a charismatic species. Lemon sharks are kind of in every, at least in the United States, it's been in every shark book that I've ever grown up with. And I'm kind of shocked that we've been 160 episodes in and we haven't talked about it yet. We talked about its cousin, the sicklefin lemon shark, but we've never talked about the OG lemon shark until now. But honestly, I think it was a really fun experience to learn more about this animal. Not just like the beautiful footage with how it looks and how it moves, but also just like the deeper social dynamics that these species can have. It's really cool. It's so cool to see how these sharks interact with other fish and then each other, where I think most notably they have a preference for familiars. So, thank you, Tim. I really appreciate your comment. And thank you for being here again. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight's stream. And I'm glad that we had a really good turnout tonight, because these are some of my favorites, where it's a nice blend of footage, science, and then overall facts for the species with a couple good tangents. We got to talk about the key to conservation, and then the Florida prohibited shark list, which is actually pretty robust. So, shout out to Florida. But thank you guys so much for watching. I think I will pick a mystery species for next week as well, since I want to make sure I'm kind of basically reviewing my basics, making sure I've got all the classic sharks out of the way. We've picked them all organically for the most part, but I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. So we'll probably see, OG lemon shark. We'll probably see some more familiar faces next week, so I'll keep that as a surprise. But until then, hope you guys all have a great rest of your week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you for next week's new shark. But take care. Have a good night. Bye.